Mayor Mark Moriel says he'd like to run for a third straight term, but won't be that easy.
Thousands pay tribute to civil rights pioneer Avery Alexander. We'll have a live report.
And it's being called a medical breakthrough that can erase cellulite. We'll have all the pros and cons.
Eyewitness News Nightwatch starts now.
WWL-TV, Channel 4, New Orleans. This is Louisiana's news leader. Channel 4's Eyewitness News.
Good evening, I'm Dennis Woltering.
And I'm Angela Hill. He still has 3 years left in his second term, but Mayor Moriel is already talking about a possible third term in office.
It would take a change in the city charter to allow him to seek a third term, and changing the charter would be a campaign in itself. As Jennifer John reports, political analysts say if Moriel is going to try to do it, he should do it now while his approval ratings are high.
In his State of the City address this morning, Mayor Moriel said his last 5 years in office have been about one thing:
building a foundation. Building a foundation for the future.
But Moriel's role in that future is limited. Term limits will end his mayoral career in 3 years after 2 terms in office, unless...
What I would be open to supporting would be a change of the limit from 2 terms to 3 terms, because I think term limits can be helpful and effective, but maybe 2 is too short. Maybe 3 may be better.
Changing term limits would take a vote of the people and an amendment to the city charter. It's something the mayor's father, Dutch Moriel, tried and failed to do in the mid-'80s during the oil bust.
He certainly has a better chance of passing a third term amendment than his father, because he is riding a wave of improvement in the city. Things are doing well. He's more popular than his father was at the time, and the percent black in the city is about 10 points higher than it was at the time that Dutch did it. So
political analyst Susan Howell has tracked Moriel's job approval ratings every year. 77% in '96, 72% in '97, and 76% last November. The numbers are steady and high, but many wonder if Moriel's magic touch isn't starting to fail him. Last December, his Proposition 1 tax proposal flopped with the voters. Last Saturday night, the candidate he backed for state senate, Herbert Cade, also lost in the polls. Howell believes it's not a reflection of Moriel's popularity. The polls speak for themselves. The mayor would basically be running against a principle, the popular and very American idea that no one person should have too much power for too long. And even though the mayor's approval ratings are very high, support for term limits nationwide is even higher. And big-name potential candidates for mayor in 2002 are already speaking up.
I'm kind of enthralled with the idea of looking at it, but I'm definitely going to be looking at it that seriously.
The city council president would undoubtedly have a tougher campaign if Moriel is allowed to seek another term.
I'm still young, I'm still strong, and I love to work.
But voter approval is a fickle thing. Howell says if Moriel wants to try to change the charter, he should try it soon, before the climate changes. Jennifer John, Eyewitness News, Nightwatch.
Moriel says if they do try to extend term limits, the changes would apply to both the mayor and council members. As it stands, term limits will prevent Council President Jim Singleton from running for the council again after his current term expires.
It's been an emotional day of remembering the life and career of a great civil rights pioneer. Thousands of people paid their last respects to the Reverend Avery Alexander. The day-long memorial began at Gallier Hall, then moved to Municipal Auditorium. That's where Karen Swenson joins us with highlights from tonight's event. Karen, it must have been a very touching tribute
to Reverend Alexander wrapped up less than an hour ago. Here at the Municipal Auditorium, there was a 3-hour program, but it wasn't a somber occasion. Instead, it was a celebration of his life. There was a lot of music and laughter and stories told by some famous friends of the man they called the Rev.
There are few people who can inspire crowds to march. Few who can pack an auditorium and command the respect of national leaders, strangers, and children. Reverend Avery Alexander was that kind of man.
He knew when it was time to march to a different beat. He knew when it was time to rock the boat.
Mayor Moriel called Reverend Alexander the city's living bridge to the civil rights movement. But it was in his death that history came to life. Tonight, New Orleans school children heard from leaders they'd only read about. Civil rights activists like Dick Gregory.
Think about where we have come from the time that sun rose on him to the time it set. We have been the most revolutionary time.
Dr. Joseph Lowry reminisced about the birth of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference.
When we gathered in this city in 1957 to organize SCLC, I was saying yes or no to the Avery then. And I'm 77.
And Martin Luther King III echoed the words of his father.
Sometimes we must take the